Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th, yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of today. You're just being completely dishonest. Would you like to use my 5 minutes to draft your resignation letter, yes or no?
No, thank you.
And you should be fired immediately and go back to Garden Doritos.
Do you know what Stuart Knight did when he was in charge at the time of the Secret Service? Do you know what he did afterwards?
He remained on duty.
He resigned. He resigned.
I think that the director has lost the confidence of Congress at a very urgent and tender moment in the history of the country, and we need to very quickly move beyond this.
Yesterday was a tense day for Kimberly Cheatle, who, as of yesterday, was the head of the Secret Service. And as you just saw, she faced bipartisan calls for her resignation while testifying before Congress. She was testifying about the near assassination of Donald Trump, and in total, during that hearing, 15 lawmakers called for her to resign, 12 Republicans and 3 Democrats. And while she repeatedly said yesterday she didn't have plans to resign, she tried to dig her heels in, today we have some breaking news. She did resign. You could see that here from CNBC. Part of the reason for the widespread calls for her to step down were due to her performance before the House. Cheatle didn't answer any of the major questions about the security that was in place or why the shooter wasn't noticed earlier, but her evasiveness wasn't confined to those major points. She also declined to answer more minor questions. How many times did the gunman fire? How did Mr. Crooks get his rifle on the roof? Those kinds of questions, she said, should be directed to the FBI, which is handling the criminal investigation. Ms. Cheatle even appeared unwilling to answer questions about herself, such as how long she had prepared for the hearing. Cheatle repeatedly suggested she'd get back to them with additional information, claiming she didn't want to give them wrong information. And that's what drew this response from Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Take a look.
This is not theater. This is not about jockeying. This is about the safety of some of the most highly targeted and valued targets internationally and domestically in the United States of America. So the idea that a report will be finalized in 60 days, let alone prior to any actionable decisions that would be made, is simply not acceptable. It has been 10 days since an assassination attempt on a former president of the United States, regardless of party. There need to be answers.
Brett, I want to bring you in here. It's obviously a different dynamic now that she has resigned, but why do you think it took so long?
Well, I'm sure I don't know why it took so long. And I was curious to see what kind of an answer she could have to the most important questions. And maybe, your excuse has to be pretty good if you're staying in your job after the worst failure of the Secret Service since someone tried to shoot Reagan. And we just didn't get it. And after that, it's like, oh, you really got to go. And especially because you're not answering the kinds of questions that you should be there completely prepared to answer. I mean, what did you think they were going to ask you? How did you think this was going to go if you're the head of the Secret Service? Do you think they were going to be like, how are you holding up? Are you okay? No, they all rely on the Secret Service. I know that in the wake of the assassination, like we went to the RNC and we loaded everything in before the assassination attempt. And there was a Secret Service sweep, which was like, we could have gotten around. If we were just walking in before the Secret Service went by, in their laps, we could have just brought all our stuff. And the Secret Service check itself was like a flashlight and a dog. And that was it. Cut to Sunday night, and they're like, we're actually adding another Secret Service sweep. We can't do anything like that. We were gonna open it up to let you in at midnight, but we're not gonna let you in until the next day at like 4 p.m. Heightened security, heightened everything. Snipers on the roof, snipers everywhere. And hundreds of police and Secret Service from everywhere. They definitely ratcheted it up, and the only logical thing for them to do is to either fire her or to force her to resign, which is something she should do honorably, no matter whether it was her fault or not. She was the person in charge of the agency that doesn't have something like this happen but once every 40 years.
Yeah, you're the head of an agency. Like, I realize you weren't there directly and your hands weren't on it, but the buck stops with you. Like, that's just how it works. That's how it works at any company, any organization, any agency. You have something this bad occur under your watch. Sorry, you're responsible.
It's a very Trump move not to resign, by the way.
For sure. Yeah. But lo and behold, she did finally. I think it became too untenable for her. And I want to bring in another clip. And while everyone, for the most part, was acting in good faith, Marjorie Taylor Greene, even though her line of questioning was relatively reasonable, she ended with this question. Take a look.
The people there knew that there was a danger. They knew there was a threat to President Trump, and it was allowed to happen. Was there a stand-down order, Ms. Cheatle? Was there a conspiracy to kill President Trump?
Absolutely not.
Then how did this happen? And why are you still sitting here not turning in your letter of resignation?
Last question, but please answer, and then I'll recognize Ms. Presley. Please answer the question.
That is what we are investigating to determine.
We're waiting for your letter. We're waiting for your letter of resignation. And you really need to consider doing that before you leave today.
Brett, do you think that this stand down order conspiracy will gain steam?
I don't. I hope not. I don't think it'll gain steam. She's out. The people who will gain steam around are never going to entertain anything other than Donald Trump is a Jesus figure who is always under attack by everyone on all sides, no matter how many times we see that the guy who shot him was a Republican, that, sometimes you just have failures like this and they're due to normal failure-y things. It doesn't always have to be a conspiracy. And half the stuff that they think are conspiracies against him, half the stuff that they lament Trump being attacked for are things that he himself brings on himself by being a total turd spanker. But I don't think this is going to go any further than this. There was a resignation. There will be some other resignations along the way. People are going to get fired. Oh, there are people there that would conduct the investigation who just would have someone else to report to now.
When you click the join button and become a tier 2 member, you get access to all of our weekly top 10 lists. What are you waiting for?